You feel tired, but it's not just physical fatigue like after a busy day. It's not just mental like after solving difficult problems. It's something deeper, an emptiness that drags inside you that doesn't go away with rest or a free weekend. You might even sleep well, eat well, laugh with friends. But when you're alone in silence, the exhaustion returns, and you don't understand why. Maybe no one has told you this yet, but I will say it now: you are not just tired, you are spiritually drained. What you feel is not a whim, not drama, and certainly not laziness. It is the weight of existing in a world that demands too much and delivers too little, a world where you are constantly chasing something that never arrives, and when it does arrive it loses its charm. Do you identify with this, with that feeling of always missing something, as if you were trying to reach a horizon line that moves with every step? Arthur Schopenhauer, one of the most provocative philosophers in history, got straight to the point. Human suffering is not an accident, it is our natural state. In his monumental work, The World as Will and Representation, he destroys the illusion that we come into the world to be happy. For him, everything that exists, you, me, animals, nature, the universe, is merely a blind and irrational manifestation of an incessant force he called will. This will is the engine of existence, but it has no purpose, seeks no meaning, knows no peace. It only desires, and the more it desires, the more it drags us into an endless cycle of frustration, boredom, and pain. We are this will, and because of that, the pursuit of happiness is doomed from the start, because what we desire never truly satisfies us, and what satisfies us lasts little, very little. The fatigue you feel is the result of this invisible war. It's not that you are living wrong, it's that the very structure of existence, according to Schopenhauer, is a trap of suffering, and the more we try to escape by working more, consuming more, seeking more pleasure, more status, more connection, the more trapped we become, the more we sink. This is the root of the spiritual drain that so many feel but few can name. In this video, I want to show you that this emptiness that bothers you has an explanation, and more than that, it has a way out, not a magical, comfortable, or popular way out, but a real one that requires courage to face what no one wants to look at, because only those who have the audacity to see the world as it truly is can, in fact, begin to free themselves from it. Now tell me, are you ready to hear the truth that most prefer to music? Ignore. Imagine a force that is behind everything that exists, an energy that pulses in every atom, in every cell of your body, in every desire that consumes you. Now imagine that this force has no direction, no consciousness, no purpose. It simply wants. It wants to exist, it wants to continue, it wants to take forms. This force is what Arthur Schopenhauer called will, and understanding what this means is fundamental to grasping why we are so spiritually exhausted. The will, according to Schopenhauer, is the essence of the world. Everything that exists, from the processes of nature to the most complex human decisions, is an expression of this irrational will. We are not rational beings who desire, we are desires that by chance developed reason, and this changes everything. There is no for what there is no why. The will does not want something specific, it wants to desire. Wanting is the natural state of existence, and if you stop to think, you will realize that you are never truly satisfied. You want something, you fight for it, you achieve it, and in a short time what once seemed essential becomes trivial. Soon a new desire is born, and the cycle begins again. This is the trap. You wake up every day driven by wills that you do not always understand. The will to be loved, recognized, respected, accepted. Desire the will to change, to grow, to stand out, to escape. You run, you exhaust yourself, you suffer, and behind all this there is only a blind will dragging you like a hungry animal. This will does not care about your well-being, it has no morality, it does not want you to be happy, it wants you to keep desiring, and this manifests in everything, in the culture that bombards you with promises of happiness, in the consumption that never satisfies, in the social media that feed the endless comparison, in the emotional pornography that turns everything into spectacle. We live inside a machine that amplifies desires, and the more we desire, the more we are enslaved. Don't you feel it, that your mind is always restless, always projecting something into the future, always believing that you will only find relief after achieving that, but that is never enough. When it arrives, it is already in the past. It has lost its shine. Schopenhauer throws a brutal truth in our faces. Suffering is structural. It does not come from poverty, illness, or failed relationships. It comes from the fact that we are alive, or rather that we are an expression of this will that never finds rest. This is the root of your spiritual exhaustion. You are not just trying to live, you are being consumed by a desire that has no end, and the more you try to fill the void with stimulation, pleasure, or achievement, the deeper it becomes. But if the will is the source of suffering, is there any way to escape? Is there any chance to break this cycle of pain, pleasure, and boredom? This is what we will explore in the next part, the cruel pendulum between pain and boredom, and how it traps the human soul. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. If you believe that life is meant to be lived in pursuit of happiness, prepare for a shock, because according to Schopenhauer, this promise is a sham, and human existence is trapped in a brutal and inescapable cycle, the pendulum between pain and boredom, a constant oscillation between the suffering caused by unfulfilled desire and the unbearable emptiness that arises when the desire is satisfied. Think about your life. When you desire something, a promotion, a relationship, a goal, you suffer from the waiting, the uncertainty, the absence of what you believe will complete you. And when you finally achieve it, a brief moment of pleasure, perhaps even euphoria, but soon after, boredom, emptiness, dissatisfaction, a new desire takes the place of the previous one, and the cycle begins again. Pain, fleeting pleasure, boredom, and pain again. This is the dance of existence, according to Schopenhauer. It is cruel, but it is real. Just observe people struggle to get what they want, and when they do, they often find that it was not what they imagined. The new car loses its smell, the dream trip becomes a memory, the relationship becomes routine, and then boredom arises, a state that Schopenhauer considered as destructive as pain, because it reveals the futility of our quest. When everything you wanted is achieved, there is nothing left but the uncomfortable silence of the soul, and the most perverse part, this pendulum does not stop. Even when you are tired, even when you no longer want it, the will continues to pulse. It makes you desire again. It pushes you toward new goals, new objects, new distractions, and you obey because you have been conditioned to believe that happiness is always in the next step. But the truth is that the next step only leads to the next emptiness. That is why so many people live a restless life, even having everything, because the pain of unfulfilled desire can be unbearable. But the boredom of fulfilled desire is devastating. It exposes the absurd, the sham, the lack of meaning. Schopenhauer did not write to console, he wrote to awaken, and this awakening is painful. It forces us to look at life without the filters of naive optimism, and to understand that perhaps the suffering we feel every day is not a flaw of life, but the very functioning of it. Now you may be wondering if this cycle is inevitable, if life is this seesaw between pain and boredom. What is the origin of it? Why are we so vulnerable to this destructive movement? The answer lies in the most ignored part of modern human experience, the silent war we wage within ourselves every day. In the next section, we will delve into the cause of this existential exhaustion, and how today's society only makes everything worse. Have you ever felt like you're living on autopilot? You wake up, work, consume, respond to messages, rush to keep up with everything, and at the end of the day, even with everything done, you feel like you haven't truly lived. This is the portrait of the modern soul, a soul that, more than exhausted, is being silently torn apart by an inner war that almost no one sees. But Schopenhauer saw it, and he described this battle with a chilling clarity. The will, this blind and insatiable force that resides within us, has never been so fed as it is today. Contemporary society is in practice a factory of desires. We are bombarded with promises of happiness. Every second a new diet that will transform your body, a new course that will change your career, a new app that will optimize your life, a new product that will make you more attractive, more productive, more desired. And in the midst of all this, you trying to fill a void that only grows, you chasing an ideal that you never reach, you repeating the phrase, "I'm tired," like a mantra, without realizing that the tiredness is not physical, it's existential. The truth is that we are being mutilated from within. The culture of productivity teaches us that resting is laziness, that stopping is a waste of time, that slowing down is failing, so we continue to harm ourselves in the name of a success that never comes with peace. And even when we reach our goals, the restlessness remains, because the will is never satisfied. It is never satisfied. Schopenhauer said that this will manifests as a structural lack. We do not seek specific things, we seek to fill a void that has no name. That's why even with comfort, technology, relationships, and achievements, many lives suffocated by a feeling That something is missing, and what is missing cannot be bought, cannot be attained, because what is missing is the pause, the silence, the end of wanting, but this end never arrives, and here lies the cruelest point. The more aware we become of this inner war, the more powerless we feel. We know we are hurting ourselves, but we can't stop the routine, the system, the expectations of others. Everything pushes us back to the battlefield. We are soldiers in a war that no one declared, but that everyone fights you. Feel this, don't you? This exhaustion that has no apparent cause, this restlessness that cannot be explained, this sadness that arises even when everything is fine. This is the reflection of the will. This is the silent war between what you want and what will never be enough. But Schopenhauer not only identified this pain, he also showed how we are deceived by a subtle and destructive promise, the idea that happiness is just around the corner, within reach of one more achievement. This is the next poison we need to expose. In the next part we will dissect the trap of hope, and why the pursuit of happiness may be your greatest mistake. You have been conditioned from an early age to believe in a narrative. If you make the right choices, if you work hard, if you are a good person, then you will be rewarded with what everyone says they want. Happiness seems fair, right? But what if I told you that this promise is a trap, that the very idea of happiness as we have been taught to see it is the poison that feeds your frustration? Schopenhauer was direct and relentless. Hope is an illusion disguised as virtue. It keeps us moving, yes, but in circles, because the object of hope is always in the future, always in the not yet. And while we cling to the expectation that it will get better, it will work out, I will be able to be happy, we fail to realize that we are living in a constant denial of the present. We hope that the pain will end, that the emptiness will be filled, that peace will finally arrive, but it never comes. And why doesn't it come? Because the will does not allow it. Remember, the will does not desire an end, it desires to desire. This means that happiness, contrary to what we are sold, is not a lasting state. It is an interval between two forms of suffering. When we achieve something we wanted very much, we feel a brief satisfaction, but soon it evaporates, and the desire changes form. A new goal arises, a new need, and with it a new dose of pain. This is the true face of hope, a tool of self-deception that prevents us from seeing the abyss, and more, it turns us into voluntary slaves. Hope and suffering, according to Schopenhauer, are Siamese twins. Hope prolongs the agony, it prevents us from accepting reality, as it is imperfect, chaotic, unsatisfactory. The happiness industry knows this, and profits from your ignorance. That's why they sell self-help books, motivational courses, videos, with promises of life-changing results in 21 days. That's why you feel guilty for not being happy, as if unhappiness were a moral failure. But it is not. Unhappiness is the foundation of existence, according to the metaphysical structure of the will, and fighting against it is like trying to extinguish fire with gasoline. When you understand this truth, something inside you begins to change. You stop chasing the mirage, you start to observe with clarity the mechanism of suffering. And then an inevitable question arises: if happiness is an illusion, if hope is a trap, then what is left for us? To give up everything, to accept despair? Schopenhauer answers with something surprising and profoundly liberating. It is not about conquering the world, but about detaching from it, about stepping out of the game, about abandoning the will, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. In the next part, we will explore this radical idea, the path of renunciation, and why true freedom can only be found when you stop wanting. If what you're hearing resonates with you, you'll find real value in my ebook, Beyond the Shadow. It breaks down Jung's core ideas and gives you tools to understand yourself more deeply. Link is in the pinned comment. At this point, you may be wondering, if wanting is suffering, then what is left for me to live? Anesthetized, to become indifferent, to accept the absurd, and surrender to nihilism. And this is where Schopenhauer offers us his deepest and most challenging answer. No, he does not propose blind resignation or cynicism. He proposes a silent revolution, a gesture of philosophical courage that goes against everything we have been taught. The denial of the will. The world says, you need to want more. Schopenhauer responds, no, you need to want less. Denying the will does not mean falling into apathy, but interrupting the cycle of suffering at its root. It means stopping identifying with that incessant desire that drags you like a hungry animal. It means ceasing to seek external satisfaction as a solution to an emptiness that is internal, and structural liberation for Schopenhauer lies in reducing wanting to a minimum until it disappears. But how? Is this possible in a reality shaped to inflame desires all the time? He offers us three main paths, all demanding but profoundly transformative. The first is that of aesthetic contemplation, when we surrender, even if for moments, to art, beauty, nature, without desire, without expectation. We can temporarily suspend the will. It is that moment when you hear a song that takes you out of time, observe a sunset that silences your thoughts, or lose yourself in a poem that dissolves the ego. Art, for Schopenhauer, is an escape route from the tyranny of wanting. The second path is that of inner silence, the practice of introspection, meditation, distancing oneself from external agitations. This retreat is not escape, it is confrontation. It is when you look within, recognize the impulses that dominate you and refuse to obey them. You begin to realize that you can exist without being in a constant state of seeking, and that there is a peace that does not depend on achievements, but on the cessation of the will to achieve. The third path is the most radical, that of asceticism, the conscious discipline of denying worldly pleasures, of breaking with the illusion of the self as the center of experience. It is what we see in saints, mystics, and wise individuals from various spiritual traditions, who renounce not out of weakness but out of wisdom, because they understood that true relief does not lie in filling the void, but in transcending it. This does not mean becoming a hermit or rejecting all experience. It means choosing where to place your vital energy. It means stopping fighting against reality and starting to flow with it, with lucidity, with awareness, with serenity. You do not need to want everything. You do not need to conquer the world. You just need to stop letting it consume you. This is the great turning point that Schopenhauer proposes: not to resist the world, but to empty the attachment to it. It is a hard path, yes, but it is also the only one that offers, according to him, a true possibility of peace. You spent your whole life trying to fit in, trying to reach a peace that always seemed to slip through the edges. They said all you had to do was fight, plan, stay focused. They said if you were strong enough, resilient enough, positive enough, everything would work out. But the truth is that even after achieving what you wanted, the emptiness was still there, the fatigue continued, the relief never came completely. Schopenhauer tears this veil and shows you what no one wants to say out loud. Suffering is not a mistake along the way. It is the natural functioning of life, as long as we are trapped in the cycle of will. But he also gives you a key. You can interrupt this cycle not by conquering the world, but by withdrawing from it with clarity, wanting less, wishing in silence, appreciating beauty without possessing it, embracing the moment without demanding that it be eternal. True wisdom for Schopenhauer is not in being more, doing more, having more. It is in ceasing to be driven by scarcity. It is in contemplating life as one contemplates a work of art in silence, without the urge to possess. It's simply absorbing what is as it is. Perhaps you are spiritually drained, not because you failed, but because you followed exactly what the world told you to do, and now you realize that this was never enough. But this is not the end, it is the beginning, the start of a new way of being in the world, lighter, more aware, more awake. Now I want to know from you what in this video touched you most deeply. What part made you stop and think? Comment down below. I read everything and respond whenever I can. And if you know someone who is exhausted, lost, carrying this invisible fatigue, send them this video. It could be the spark they need to start freeing themselves. And don't forget, the next video is also important. It continues this journey you just started. Watch, reflect, and most importantly, keep seeking, but this time with your eyes turned inward. Music.